I'm going to talk about the pinion gear and the motor shaft. And you can see on this particular motor shaft, I've already filed a flat spot for the pinion set screw to rest in. Now it's really important that whenever you file this, you want to be close to the edge there, but you don't want to file it all the way off so that there is no step. The step here is going to help secure the pinion to the motor shaft. And what I mean by that is if you put this on and you tighten it up, if the set screw backs off a little bit and you do not have the step, then of course the pinion would actually slide all the way off. But because we have that little step in there, the pinion, the set screw actually drops down in between, and therefore it can't slide off. It might come loose, but it's not going to slide off. And if you'll use Loctite, you'll probably never have an issue with your pinion gear coming loose or losing the pinion gear because of the fact you did not have that little step. Now I'm going to show you how I go about getting that little step with a new motor. I should have done it with this one, but I'm going to be setting up another model, so I will go ahead and show you by using this one here. Notice this one does not have a step on it. It is just a round shaft. Now I'm going to do this in two steps. I'm going to, at the end of it, I'm going to file my step with a real small flat file. And I'm going to do a rough cut. You can either do a rough cut with a Dremel, or I use a cutoff wheel. And one thing about anytime you go to file or cut on your motor shaft, you want to take a precaution, and I put the motor in a bag just like I've done here, and then poke the shaft through the end. So this way any filings or any cutting, any debris that comes off the shaft doesn't get stuck right to the magnets or get caught into my motor, because that can be a problem down the line. So to ensure that none of that happens, I put the motor in the bag and do the cutting and the filing, and then when I'm done, I slide the shaft back out the hole, and now all my shavings and filings are on the outside of the bag, is where the motor's on the inside of the bag. And when I pull the bag away, well, guess what? I don't have those filings or shavings stuck inside my motor and doing damage as it over time. So the way I file this or grind this or cut this first is to use a cutoff wheel, and I'll do that now. Okay, so now that I have my slot, I'm going to go ahead and finish off the slot. Because my blade on my cutoff wheel is sort of rounded, I'm going to take the file and I'm going to true this up so to make the corners square. And the reason for that is so that my set screw can actually set right down on the flat spot that I've created. So it doesn't take but just a little bit to file that so that it's square. Now I can go ahead and slide this out of my bag, and again I use the bag because I do not want any of that shavings and whatnot to get into my motor, because the magnets will draw it in. Now I'm going to take my pinion gear and I'm going to slide it all the way on, and then I'm carefully going to tighten it up and move it back and forth to make sure that I hit the bottom of the slot. And it looks like I have this slot perfect. This tube of thread lock here is about 5 years old, and what's significant about that is that I bought this. It's about $15 at an auto parts place. Now this is thread lock blue, and it's called Gel. It's a really good Loctite, but what's different about this is it comes in a little, like a lipstick tube, if you will. You rotate this and your Loctite comes out the end. Now you might notice that I'm rotating it and nothing's coming out, but yet I got Loctite out here, and you can see that it is still really pliable. So, and the reason it's pliable, and like I said, this tube is about 5 years old now, but the reason it is pliable is because I store it in a sandwich bag. In other words, before I started the video, I pulled it out of the sandwich bag. The other thing that's unique about it, let me go ahead and glue this up. So I've put the Loctite on the threads here, and now I'm just going to thread this in, and I go almost all the way, and now I'm rotating my gear and moving my gear in and out because I want to make sure that I hit that flat, because that's the most important thing. And once I'm sure I'm in the flat, then I can go ahead and tighten it down. And now I'm definitely in the flat, so I'm going to do the finish snugging of it. And now I should not have any issues with this gear. I want to clean any Loctite that may be in the teeth of the gear and set this aside and let that cure. Tomorrow I'll be able to use this and no problem. Now, going back to my tube of Loctite here, notice I took the cap off of it, and again I spin this and there's nothing there. Well, a little trick about this is this cap actually fits onto this tube, and if you carefully pull on that, you can actually separate this. Now I have a ton of Loctite inside the cap here, as well as in here, and also in here. So I ran out of Loctite a couple of years ago, but because I take this top off and utilize the Loctite that was in here and in here, I'm still getting Loctite out of this. So if you buy one of these, yeah, it's about 15 bucks, but you know what? It can last you for years, and I use a lot of Loctite, and this is what I use. So as an FYI, look into that. You might be surprised at actually how much you probably throw away more Loctite than you actually used if you do not utilize what's inside the applicator there.